Hi, I'm Eric Lipsy, and this is Galt. Today I'm here with Jenny Barrett of Hot Mess Bookkeeping. How are you today, Jenny?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. I'm excited to have you on here today. I know it's been a little while since we chatted, and just looking forward to tapping into your knowledge today.
It has. It's been too long. I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit of information for people.
All right, great. Well, the first question I have, and I'm sure this is on a lot of people's minds, and I'm sure you've probably gotten this question a lot. What exactly is bookkeeping?
So that is a great question because I get that question all the time. Bookkeeping is where you actually are taking your income and your expenses from your business and you're categorizing them and you're prepping them both for tax purposes, and so that you can look at where your business is financially. You can see, am I making money? Am I losing money? Am I growing? Am I shrinking? And you're able to do all of those things just by the simple matter of taking the supposedly simple matter of taking your expenses and your income and tracking them correctly.
So some
Um,
people may be on some type of bookkeeping thing already, whether it be a spreadsheet or whether it be just throwing receipts in a box, which I know is completely horrible. And I think that's why you chose the name of your business, Hot Mess Bookkeeping, because you help people clean up those messes. That's part of what you do, anyways. And I think a lot of people go about doing things that way because they don't understand the importance of what it is. And so what you're saying is that it's really important for when you're trying to see where your money's going, basically.
for sure. If you aren't tracking your money, then it's just kind of passing through without you paying attention.
Hmm.
And it's really true that what you track is what grows. So when you're tracking your money, you're tracking your expenses, you're tracking your profitability, then you're able to increase your profits, decrease your expenses, and increase your income intentionally instead of just saying, well, I'll bring on another client and hopefully that will mean that I'm able to make rent next month.
Yeah.
And instead you're saying, I'm looking at my finances and I'm seeing that I want to keep my expenses at this level and I want to increase my income, and maybe I want to increase my expenses a little bit. That way you're sitting there with information. Information is power.
Hmm.
And when you aren't paying attention to where that money is coming, where it's going from, then you don't have the power in your business. And there are so many people who I've had clients who came to me and they had their envelope of receipts and they write on the back of the envelope of receipts. And that is a excellent starting point. That's actually better than not having anything.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. And when it comes to tax time too, like even if you're dealing with a CPA who's doing your taxes for you, I can't imagine what that headache is like to just get a box of receipts or something like that where you got to go comb through all of that. I mean, or even if a CPA will even deal with that sort of thing, what has been your experience on that?
CPAs and tax professionals like EAs, which are the enrolled agents, who are also allowed to talk to the IRS,
Mhm.
they have a tendency to either charge a lot to put those books back in order and barely just enough so that they can get them on the tax form,
Gotcha.
or they don't touch them at all and they want to pass them off to a bookkeeper before they touch them and start working on them. Um, and it's just, I have found that it exponentially, the amount of time that it takes to do your books goes up exponentially every month. So it might only take you 5 minutes a month if you do it every month. But if you wait until the end of the year, then it'll take you 3 or 4 weeks of exhaustion and frustration and ripping your hair out and screaming at the dog and just be like, I can't handle this. So you can, when you have simple books, you can do them pretty quickly by yourself if you do them. But as soon as you stop doing them, then they just it snowballs.
This gets out of control.
Yeah.
No, that was a great lead into my next question, and that was how do you make that more manageable so that you are able to stay on top of stay on top of your bookkeeping. Are there some other tools as well that people could use to help them keep things on track so they don't get overwhelmed and get so far behind that they feel they just can't do it anymore?
Absolutely. If you are on a really tight budget, there's a program called Wave that is actually free. The only thing they charge if you run payroll through them, or if you like actually pay people through it, or you receive payment for invoices, they charge off of those. But they're free. It's not the most powerful software, but it works really well for simple startup businesses that just need something to
Mhm.
run. Um, once if you think you're going to start growing fairly quickly, if you're in the mindset of I want my business to truly be a business, then I recommend honestly starting out with QuickBooks, either Simple Start or Essentials, which are their two lower levels. Not QuickBooks Self-Employed. That one is not really a software it's not really an accounting software. It's encourages bad behavior such as mixing your personal
Okay.
income with your business income and doing things like that. So unfortunately, and it has very limited reporting. So I do not recommend that one. Um, Start out with Simple Start if you need to start out with something cheap, or start out with Wave. And the best advice that I can give is set yourself a weekly date, put it on your calendar. It can be for as little as 15 minutes or a half an hour, where you make a habit of going in, getting all of your expenses for the week and your income for the week categorized in Wave, QuickBooks. Zero is another option, but Wave and QuickBooks are the two that I usually work in.
Mhm.
And save your receipts. So you make your weekly appointment. Take a picture of all of your receipts from that week. Um, Put those in a Google Drive
Mhm.
folder that's just named 2021 receipts dash hot mess bookkeeping or something like that. That way um you know exactly what it is. If you have three businesses, you might have business one, business two, business three, and you want to keep those separate. So quick copy of those receipts, go through, categorize in your bank account the income, the expenses, and that's the majority of what you're doing. Once a month, you'll go in and reconcile your bank account. And if you can make that a habit, then by the time you're ready to bring on a bookkeeper, you
Mhm.
have books that are fairly caught up, fairly clean,
Yeah.
and you won't have a giant cleanup
Mhm.
expense, or it's expensive and it's time consuming to bring on somebody to do a cleanup. Um, I
Yeah.
actually prefer it when people come on and they haven't done anything and it's just a catch up, because I love the cleanups, but it's faster and easier and cheaper if we just do a catch up where they haven't touched their books at all.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
see. Rather than going in and creating a hot mess, right?
It's the hot mess that can be a challenge to clean up, which I actually love. That's
Yeah.
unlike a lot of bookkeepers, that's my niche. But you don't want to be in that position. Just because I love doing it does not mean you
Right.
want to be in that position.
Absolutely. And that's a very rare thing that you meet somebody who wants to comb through that mess. I have a little bit of an accounting background, but there's no way I would ever want to dig through that sort of thing.
Oh, I love it. It's such a fun puzzle. It's
Oh,
so much fun. It's the best feeling ever when I get a bank account that was off by $100,000 and we get it down to reconcile to the penny, and it just that that's better than ice cream. I mean, it's
yeah,
the best
that's a
feeling
great
ever.
feeling, yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, you did bring up a really great point. Well, not that all your points weren't great, but there was one thing in particular I noticed that you mentioned was commingling. And I've noticed that a lot of first-time entrepreneurs will do that sort of thing. And in my mind, it's basic knowledge, but hey, go set up a separate business account or whatever. But a lot of people don't know to go through that process. So, what are some pointers that you would give to them for getting started? Because I know some things can seem so insurmountable when you're first starting, like, oh, this is going to be so complicated and so just way out something that I can't get my head around. What are some things that you would tell people who are in that kind of state of mind as far as trying to get to the point where they're not commingling? Because that's really a mess to try to separate.
It absolutely is. The best piece of advice is as soon as you start your business, um, there will be a few expenses. There's always a few expenses that happen before you've started up your business. Those we can add in on the back end and they still should be business expenses. But as soon as you've really started your business, go get a bank account that's separate. A checking account is fine.
Mhm.
Even if you're just a sole proprietor and you are not an LLC, that's okay. Banks will still let you get a business bank account.
Mhm.
And um, the especially once you become an LLC, you're picking up the LLC. That's the limited liability corporation. You're picking up the LLC specifically to reduce your liability.
Mhm.
Well, if you start commingling those expenses,
Yes.
then a lawyer can, if you do, God forbid, get sued,
Mhm.
then a lawyer will come in and say, well, look at your books. You're commingling this stuff. You aren't treating this like a business. And it's I'm not a lawyer, but it's basically piercing the corporate veil and it's taking you out of being a business and back into almost the hobby status where
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if you get sued. It's super easy to just go in and take that. Um, but there's an online bank that's called Relay. The website is relayfi.com. And they are very easy to open the bank account with. They let you open up multiple accounts. So if you want a checking account that you only put your tax money in,
Mhm.
so you're saving, I'm going to make up a number, 25% of all of your income for taxes, you can dump that into a separate account. And they let you make a ton of accounts, all for free. They have certain things they charge for, but it's not the things that the basic business owner would be doing. It's if you need high level bill pay, that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, but I've heard people say, well, I'm a sole prop, I can't go get a bank account. Yes, you can. If somewhere local won't let you do it, go talk to them. Go talk to Relay.
Yeah.
Um,
There's always somebody who's more than happy to take your money, right?
okay.
So-
And really just have the philosophy, if it's business money, it goes in here. So income goes in here and then immediately pay. If you're ready, then if you make $1,000 and you want to pay yourself $750 of that, great. Have the $1,000 go into your bank account, your business bank account, and then have the 750 get transferred to your personal. And as long as you have that philosophy, everything that's business goes through the business account, everything that's personal needs to go through the personal account, and make that split by transferring the money between one and the other.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
really
And
like
that'll
the
make a big difference.
yeah, I really like the point you bring up too, that as far as having multiple checking accounts, and sometimes depending on the type of business, like I know for my wife, she does interior design, so sometimes she has her clients' money and then she has, regular expense money. So sometimes having those things separated out as far as your payroll, that's in a different account. So everything is not even commingling within the business is even important. So you know what money can be allocated to what. So I think that's a really great point that you brought up there. That's something really important for entrepreneurs to consider.
It can be really helpful. I run on I read the book Profit First, and I'm not a first professional, but I read the book and I really liked the philosophy. And their philosophy is you're giving yourself smaller platters to
Mm.
look at.
Yeah,
So when you're wanting to lose weight, instead of having the big old dinner plate, you get the little plates and you
right.
just inherently serve yourself less and eat less food. Same philosophy, instead of having all of your money in one big account and then trying to track through spreadsheets or whatever, okay, this is how much I have for operating, this is how much I have to pay myself, this is how much I have for payroll. Instead of doing that, you say, all right, I have this big chunk. Here's payroll. Here's my operating expenses. Here's how much I can pay myself. Here's my profit.
Mm.
Um, and I have 5 accounts right now. I think I have the basic Profit First accounts right now, and I'm probably going to be adding a few more here soon. So I have income. That's where all of my incoming money comes.
Mhm.
I leave a little bit of money in there because The way that my payment processor works is I found this out the first month. They take out the fee first and then they
Oh, yes.
deposit the money. So I leave some money in there so
Yeah,
that that doesn't bounce.
right.
Which by the way, this is Relay, they did not charge me, and I am not an affiliate with them, but they did not charge me a bounce fee. It just didn't get paid. So
Oh, gotcha.
really, truly no fees from them.
Wow,
Um,
that's really amazing because that's honestly how a lot of banks. I was surprised some 10, 15 years ago when I learned that banks were making most of their money from not interest, but in NSF charges.
oh, I can believe that.
Yeah, they were making billions of dollars a year charging people. I mean, you think about it, 36, 36, 36. You keep doing that across the board, that adds up fast. So that is something to really keep in mind that so if they're not doing that, I mean, not that you want to have anything, not clearing or whatnot, but if you're ever in that situation where you might have had a little oversight or something like that, it's great to have that kind of security, knowing that your bank is not going to try to rake you over the coals for making a slight mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and didn't I think they changed the laws even because Wells Fargo would overdraft you with the largest dollar amount
Yes,
first and then
mhm,
hit you. So if you had
absolutely.
10 items, they would overdraft you with the first one and then hit you with
Right.
10 fees instead of
Hmm.
letting the small ones hit first and then letting the big one hit and only hitting you with one overdraft.
Yes, and
Um,
apparently they were even holding those things in pending for a long time so that they would get that snowball effect where they could charge you multiple times for. And it's like, hey, you would have hit number one NSF charge if they had done it, if they had
that's
just cleared
awful.
that thing. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awful.
that's
Yeah,
really unfortunate. That you can't trust the people you're depositing your money with. So
for sure.
yeah,
Oh, bank account. So I have income, which is where all of the money comes in, and then I transfer out of that. I have the operating expense, which is the only one that I have debit cards for. Everything else I don't even have a card for. It's literally just transfer in and out of. I have my profit account, which I think I put 5% right now,
mhm.
just off the top. Everything
Right.
every month I put five, or every dollar that comes in, I put 5 cents in
Oh, that's great.
to profit.
Yeah.
And then taxes, and I'm missing one. I'm suddenly drawing a blank.
Payroll possibly, or
Which one?
payroll? Maybe, I don't know if you
No,
have.
I'm not paying. I don't have any payroll right now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, giving. I have giving. So
Oh,
I
okay.
put money away aside so that I can specifically give to causes
Oh, that's great.
that are good for me. So um, even sometimes I'll give right away, and sometimes it will just sit in that account so that I can make a bigger deposit later,
Yeah,
or a
contribution.
bigger contribution in one shot. Like I think Colorado does a day in December where they don't charge fees, so that would be a good time for me to take a large chunk of money and contribute it to someone.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's great. That's really great. I really think this is very valuable information, and I think will definitely help a lot of entrepreneurs, with their journey, especially with the bookkeeping, because a lot of people don't realize you can get in so much trouble not taking care of your books. You're sending wrong numbers or no numbers at all to the IRS, and when they come at you, they come at you hard, and they'll just end up throwing a big tax bill at you, and then the burden of proof is on you to prove
yep,
that it's not. And then even I also wanted to mention what I'll go back to what you were saying about the commingling of funds, because I actually had that happen to a friend of mine, and he was going through. It wasn't an audit; it was something with a lawsuit. He was being sued for something, and they went through and saw that he was using his business account for personal expenses, and that's what they basically came down on him for. I'm saying, well, it's not really protected because you were using this for personal use as well. So it kind of negated the whole LLC, and it's
yeah,
something really important to know if you're going that route. If there's expenses coming out of it, you better make sure they're business related expenses and not your personal, because
yeah.
very
Make it
important.
super clear. Yes, you can. If you need to do if you're taking out $10,000 to make some big purchase, but it's coming out of your business account, great. transfer it into your personal account, and then pay it. But
Right.
that's
That's
the
simple. Yeah.
it it appears to be hard for some people, but it really is that simple as long as you have that mindset that it really is. Would you go to your employer and say, "Hey, would you pay for this and I'll just pay you back later?" You know, would you go to your job and say, "I want to buy this thing. I'll just pay you back later." If
Right.
you wouldn't do that for them, or
Hmm.
if you wouldn't want to ask your boss that, then you shouldn't be taking the money out of your account for that.
Absolutely.
And for the IRS, that's where that keeping those copies of those receipts,
Mm.
especially so things like Zoom, those are coming out monthly. They're not a big deal. You already, I mean, it's pretty
Right.
clear that your Zoom account, if you're online on business all the time, then it's pretty clear that the Zoom account really does make sense as a business expense. But things like meals, you want to make sure that you're writing down who you did it with and
Mhm.
why.
Right.
Even if it's just, hey, I went to this networking group, and just write it down, snap your picture, and you're done. Um, and then things like, so Office Depot, you could assume were office supplies, but what if you went to Walmart or Costco? You know,
Right.
$300 at Costco, that could be, maybe you did $50 in office supplies, and maybe you did $250 in food.
That's true.
And the IRS doesn't know. They're going to
Yeah.
assume that you miscategorized it and put it as food,
Yeah.
or that it should have been food and
Or that
not.
it should have been food, right? And when they get to
Yeah.
digging, I mean, they dig, and like you said, the burden of proof is on you. So,
Yep.
uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
very good point. Very good
Yep.
point.
So if you can keep everything separate, keep your copies of your receipts, and keep on top of this every month so that you're not sitting there with a year worth of bank statements that you're trying to deal with, you will keep yourself in fairly good shape. And then once you're getting bigger and you're ready to, you're saying, okay, this is getting overwhelming every month, that's where you bring on the bookkeeper.
Gotcha.
And at that point, you already know what you're doing, and you at least know what's going on in your books. Because I'm a big believer that everybody should know what's going on in their finances. It should not be siloed away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because there's actually been people who have gotten ripped off. A lot of times it's more so by the accountant or the CPA, more so than the
Yep.
bookkeeper. But because they weren't paying attention or didn't know how to read the financial statements and things like that. So the accountant was just taking money and they didn't even know it. I mean, this even happened to wealthy people where they end up getting in trouble with the IRS or because things they were thinking were being taken care of weren't getting taken care of. The money was going, but it wasn't going to the IRS. It was going into their personal accounts. And yeah, so like you said, it's really important to be able to read those financial statements, even if someone is taking care of the day to day, you still need to be able to look at your own books and say, okay, this is right, this is right. Oh, you know what? That's questionable, and be able to ask, okay, what is that? So,
Well, and to add to that, that's why when I get bank account access, it's always read only.
mm,
You you either, as the business owner, you have both sides. You can write in your books and you can move the money. But
mhm,
when you bring somebody in and pay them to work on something, you
mhm,
either pay them to touch the money or you pay them to touch the books, but
yeah,
you don't do both.
you
If they
don't do
can
both,
write checks and they're writing what the checks are in your bank account or
right?
in your QuickBooks, that's a bad combo.
Mm,
And any that's where, even, I mean, churches have gotten ripped off by the little old lady, and there are
that's unfortunate.
terrifying stories of churches who had the little old lady who worked for them for 25 years, and in the last 10 ripped off 100,000 or more dollars from the church.
Wow.
And businesses can be the same way. It's just churches tend to have a trusting thing. You're in the church, therefore you're trusted.
Yeah,
But you shouldn't be putting people into a position where something could happen and they could cause an issue. You do not want that burden of proof, or that guilt, the potential
right.
guilt, to be on either side.
But you bring up an excellent point there too, because with QuickBooks and a lot of the other smaller type accounting systems, it's easier to manipulate where you can go back and change things from dates back in the past where you get the more expensive, like Peachtree and things like that. But of course, you're paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars for those programs, so everybody can't, afford those. But those numbers can be manipulated. So that's a really good point. And as people understanding, hey, if you're turning this over, you can go back even in a prior year and change the numbers in some of these programs. They don't prevent you from being able to do it. Like I said, the the more expensive systems, you just have to go create a journal entry because everything has to have a paper trail. So you have to do a journal entry to correct something that was even incorrect at some point, but not with QuickBooks or Quicken. And those allow you to be able to go back and edit. And sometimes you never know what happened because there's no. It's harder to track it if you're not
Yeah.
paying attention. Yeah.
So Wave doesn't have an audit trail, but QuickBooks has a pretty robust audit trail.
Oh, that's good.
So even though you can go in and make changes, it will tell you this is one of the reasons you don't share logins. You add somebody as a user to
Ah,
QuickBooks.
uh-huh.
So it will let you know Jenny Barrett went in and changed this transaction and this invoice changed from this dollar amount to this dollar amount, or it'll show you the previous and then the current, or she deleted it, or she did whatever. And most people don't know that there's an audit trail, but there is a very robust audit trail
Well,
in
that's good.
QuickBooks.
That's really good.
As long as you have people have their own sign in. Otherwise, it just says owner went in and did this, owner went in and did that. And you
Gotcha.
don't, you never want to hand your username to somebody else because then your audit trail gets diluted.
That's great, and that's a really great point too. So even when you're allowing other users on, you can actually probably select exactly what they can do when they're logged in too. So that's really good.
Yep. You can get it all the way down to read only, where all I can do is pull reports, which might be what you want your tax accountant to do.
Hmm.
All the way up to being an admin, or I get added on as an accountant, which gives me certain privileges, such as if you reconcile your bank account, I can go back and unreconcile your bank account, which is really important in cleanups.
Right.
Um, and so it gives the accountant user permissions give a little bit more of certain types of permissions than even the regular user.
Hmm.
But I always tell all of my clients, even though I have these extra permissions, you can go in and see exactly what I did. And you can see that I'm not doing anything that shouldn't be done. Um, which I think is really, really important for those reasons, because you don't want to have those, I'm writing a check to somebody and, oh, well, we don't really know who that person is. And it happened to be an LLC that I created to,
Yeah.
slip the money in or something like that. Yeah.
Especially those companies
You
having
never want to get yourself into that situation.
yeah, you got tons of transactions going through. It's so easy to miss things like that if you're not, not careful.
It is. That's why when I do bill pay, the occasional time that I do bill pay, it's always through a third party source that has approvals. So I can set up the bill pay,
Mhm.
but the owner has to approve it before it actually goes out. That way, any money that I am touching is not a direct, I am pushing it out. It's always somebody else, or the owner is always checking it before it goes out. Because I'm honest, but not everybody is.
Right, right. And ultimately, it still falls back if they get audited. The IRS
Yep.
is still coming after them, regardless to who did your books. That's not they don't care about that. They're
Yep.
coming after you
Yep.
for you're still responsible for whatever reports went out.
Yep, they are still ultimately your responsibility when you're a business owner. So, yep, you always want to have a feel of what your books are doing.
Well, thank you very much for coming on with us today, Jenny. It's about all the time we have for today. But before we go, I definitely want to provide the opportunity for you to provide a way for people to get in touch with you, or the best way to contact you, be it phone number, email, or even if it's social media, following you on social media, whatever's good for you. Just let the people know how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So you can always email me at jennifer@hotmessbk.com. I didn't want people to have to spell out bookkeeping, so it's hotmessbk.com.
Makes sense.
And then I'm not on there super often right now. I hopefully will change that soon, but I am also on Facebook, and it's facebook.com/hotmessbk. And you can always message me through there as well.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much again, Jenny. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. And that's all for today, folks. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you. This has been great.